It was the only reason I wanted to do the last season, to be able to do this.
Colonel Potter, sir, my last wish is to be buried in my mother's wedding gown.
I've seen these Dodgers for 40 years, all the tricks. Dismissed!
It's hard to imagine television ever producing something like MASH again, a show that could make you laugh one moment, break your heart the next, and still make you think about war, humanity, and morality long after the credits rolled. And at the center of it all was Alda, the man who played Hawkeye Pierce, the wisecracking, bourbon-sipping surgeon who somehow managed to make humor and heartbreak coexist in a war zone. But behind the camera, Alda was working under one of the strictest rules in TV history, a rule that would frustrate him, define his creative limits, and eventually push him to change the way television storytelling worked forever.
And always the star of MASH, Hawkeye himself, Alda. Hello.
Hello.
It's a nice little place you got here.
Thank you. Take a look around. Hold on.
These are the studios of 20th Century Fox.
During the golden years of MASH, the set looked chaotic from the outside. Nurses running through tents, wounded soldiers on stretchers, and the constant hum of choppers overhead. But for the actors, especially Alda, there was something far more rigid controlling every move they made. The script, every single word, pause, and breath was controlled. Improvisation, not allowed, not even a word out of place. And for someone like Alda, who came from an improv background and built his early acting career on spontaneity and human truth, it felt like being in a creative straitjacket. He joked that he could perform surgery blindfolded at this point, but the truth was, most of those surgeries weren't even real props. Sometimes he was literally operating on a rolled up copy of the script. The irony wasn't lost on him. There he was, playing a man who bent every rule in the military handbook, while he himself was being forced to follow one rule that made his job harder than anyone realized. Don't change a single word. You see, MASH was written with surgical precision. Larry Gelbart, the show's head writer, was a genius, no question. His dialogue carried rhythm, tone, and meaning so tightly woven that even a small change could throw the whole balance off. When the script was finalized, it wasn't just writing anymore, it was sacred text. If a scene wasn't working, Alda couldn't tweak it himself. He'd have to pick up the phone, call Gelbart, and ask him to come fix it, right there on set. And Larry, being the perfectionist he was, would hop on his bike, pedal across the studio lot, and rewrite the scene himself. That was how precise they were, but that perfection came with a price. For Alda, acting was about being in the moment, letting instincts and emotion take over, even if it meant breaking away from the lines on the page. On MASH, that freedom didn't exist. Once he and Wayne Rogers, who played Trapper John, were filming on the outdoor set at Fox Ranch. No phones, no quick fixes. They came across a line that made absolutely no sense, but with no way to reach Gelbart, they said it anyway. The next day, during playback, Gelbart turned to Alda and said, "Why on earth did you say that?" Alda shot back, "Because it was in the script." And Gelbart just shook his head and said, "It was a typo." That one exchange summed up their working dynamic.
Johnny Payne.
Oh, really?
Do people expect you to know? Do people come up and ask you medical questions and think that you're really a surgeon?
Sometimes they expect me. I have a friend whose husband got sick and thought that she should call me. Because,
I wondered what you were doing.
I was the first one she thought of, but I really don't like to do medical things. You know, I don't really know anything about it. So, I'll see you at the interview.
Help, doctor!
Brilliance with boundaries. Alda respected Gelbart, but deep down, he wanted to break free. He knew that the best acting didn't always live in the written word. Sometimes it came from the space between them, so he started pushing. Gently at first, then more boldly. He wanted the show to breathe, to sound less like television and more like life. Still, rules were rules. For years, MASH stayed scripted down to the syllable. The only thing that wasn't controlled was the exhaustion. Alda would fly across the country every week, Los Angeles to New Jersey, filming for days on end, then red-eye flights home to see his family. He was perpetually jet-lagged, sometimes sleeping only a few hours before heading back to set. Once he tried to nap on his army cot between takes, only to find it infested with fleas. The set, after all, wasn't a pristine Hollywood stage. It was dusty, hot, and filled with real discomfort. The fatigue you saw on screen, that was real. But the exhaustion was nothing compared to the mental strain of playing a man who lived in chaos while being restricted by such tight creative order. Alda's brain was bursting with ideas, new ways to express emotion, to let the characters talk like real people. He knew the power of improvisation. He'd done it for years in theater. He'd studied it, lived it. He believed that unscripted words carried a kind of honesty you couldn't fake. And finally, after years of pushing, the creators of MASH * decided to let him test that theory just once. It happened in season 4 in an episode called The Interview. The setup was simple but genius. A real journalist, Cleet Roberts, visits the 4077th and interviews the staff on camera. It was filmed in black and white, like an old 1950s newsreel. But here's the twist: there was no script for most of it.
Radar,
Here, sir.
take the roll.
Marion. His folks wanted a boy.
Watch it, I'm not in the mood for fooling around tonight.
You hear that, Margaret?
The actors had to answer Roberts' questions in character, making up their responses on the spot. For the first time ever, Alan Alda could throw the rulebook out the window. And something magical happened. The episode didn't feel like television anymore. It felt real. You could see it in Alda's eyes when he talked about war, in the hesitation in his voice when Roberts asked about death. There was a fragility there that no script could have captured. For the first time, the soldiers of MASH * weren't acting. They were existing. It was raw, haunting, and beautiful. Critics loved it. The audience felt like they were peering into the souls of these characters and of the actors behind them. That single experiment proved that Alda was right. Improvisation could make MASH * more human than ever before, but it also reinforced something else. How much control and trust went into making the show work. It was a delicate balance between chaos and control, humor and heartbreak, structure and freedom. After that episode, Alda became even more involved behind the camera. He wasn't just Hawkeye anymore. He was writing, directing, shaping the tone of the show. He co-wrote about 10% of the episodes himself, including the finale, which remains the most watched scripted TV episode in history. When MASH * ended in 1983, it wasn't just the end of a show, it was the end of an era. Over 100 million people tuned in to watch Hawkeye say goodbye. But for Alda, MASH * never really ended. It lived in the lessons it taught him. About storytelling, about leadership, about staying true to something bigger than yourself. The strict rule that had once frustrated him, the ban on improvisation, was also what taught him discipline. It forced him to find creativity within boundaries, and when he finally broke those boundaries, he did it with purpose. Even today, Alda says that MASH * shaped his entire career. Every show he worked on, every movie he directed, every scientific documentary he hosted, they all carried a piece of that same lesson. Respect the structure, but don't be afraid to humanize it, because real art lives in the in-between. He remembers those long nights on set, tired, flea-bitten, half asleep, operating on foam rubber and paper scripts. He remembers laughing between takes, cracking jokes to keep the energy alive. He remembers the smell of dust, the heat, the rhythm of helicopters fading into silence. And he remembers how it felt when Larry Gelbart, after yet another perfect take, looked at him and said, "That's the one." That's what made MASH * timeless. Not just the war stories, or the humor, or the emotion, but the humanity that seeped through even the strictest rules. Alan Alda may have been forced to follow the words on the page, but somehow, through sheer heart and honesty, he made every single one of them feel alive. And maybe that's the real secret. Maybe that rule wasn't just about control. Maybe it was a challenge to prove that even when you can't change the words, you can still change the world with how you say them. And Alan Alda, he did exactly that.